Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Palm Tree Sports Radio. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and my apologies. My name is Corey Pujols, and I'm your host, and I am happy to be here to you on this Sunday afternoon. Listen, I do apologize, guys, for the technical difficulties I was just experiencing. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but we are here and we are live, guys. I do apologize again for that late start, but here we are, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. First and foremost, I got a little bit of information coming to you guys, a little bit of a smaller show just due to the fact that the Bolts and the Panthers are playing each other, so obviously that segment will kind of get cut in half, and then of course with no football to talk about, things have become a little bit limited, but don't worry, I do have a few other things up my sleeve that I would like to talk to you about, especially the resolution of UFC 300. That's going to be a wonderful thing to talk about for those of you who saw it. For those of you who did not, I have some serious highlights and information for you guys to go check out once this show is over, or while you're listening at the same time. So listen, we'll hold that to the end of the show, though, guys. I'm definitely going to get you this information about what's going on, though, in the NBA, the MLB, and NHL as far as Florida is concerned. But a quick shout-out to everybody that I see in the chat. Larry, what's up, my man? It's good to see you. Taryn, always a pleasure, brother. Jen B, welcome back to the show again. And Ralph, always good to see you, brother. I really appreciate you guys popping in, and I appreciate the support. And I love to catch your shows when I can, too, guys. I was actually on each of you guys' show at one point in time early throughout the week, so I really enjoy the content that you were bringing. Taryn, of course, keep up the good work, brother, because you cover so much, and we really appreciate what you do if you don't hear it enough, and same to everybody else, guys. But with that being said, let's dive on into the show, guys. As you guys know, we are going to be covering the sports that are coming out of Florida. I don't know what you guys are watching this evening, because pretty much everything has already happened, between yesterday and earlier today, and I have to admit, guys, I'm not happy to bring this to you, but we suck. Okay, guys, right now we suck in Florida, unless you're the Panthers. That's the only team that doesn't suck, okay? Aside from that, everybody else is just playing like they have stuff to lose and they just don't care about losing it. Quick pause, Dad, I see you in there. Shout out to Dad, I love you, my man. And we'll talk again as soon as the show is over. But yeah, as I was saying, guys, basically it's just not a great weekend for Florida sports. Marcus, I see you, brother. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't explain what it is, and I also watched the Lakers game yesterday. For those of you who know me, I'm a huge LeBron James fan. I actually wasn't the biggest Lakers fan until I kind of fell in love with Kobe at the end of his career, and then obviously LeBron going over there was huge. But the Lakers lost yesterday. That sucks. Sad face. But along with that, so did the Heat and the Magic. Both of our NBA basketball teams lost the first game of the playoffs, and it's really awkward because for the Heat, it makes sense. Okay, so for those of you who did not know, the biggest news about the Heat right now is that they're going to be without Jimmy Butler for the foreseeable future. How long that's going to be, we're not sure, but I'm going to be 100% honest with you. There's no way in heaven they're getting past Boston without JB. Let's be practical here. Let's be realistic, right? Because we all watch sports and we love to root for the underdog, but there's rooting for the underdog when they have their best player, and then rooting for the underdog when they don't have their best player. And yes, Bam Adebayo has been an absolute force of nature this year. He's been one of the best 3 defensive players in the NBA, in my humble opinion. I think he's played absolutely phenomenal basketball, but unfortunately, he's a big man, and you know what that means. It means he's going to need to be surrounded by players that are going to be able to take that pressure off of him, especially when you have such a dominant center like him. Let's go back in history and look at some of those dominant centers, right? So some of the people that come to mind, Hakeem Olajuwon is one of them, right? Shaquille O'Neal, here's another one, right? Even right now, we have Giannis Antetokounmpo, okay? Well, guess what they all had? They all had perimeter help. Okay, and what that means is basketball is a relatively simple sport, and the complications take place when you start to dive deeper into the details and the analytics of the game, and this is an example of that. Without JB, the Heat are not going to be able to beat a team like the Celtics, a team that has consistently been the number 1 or number 2 team in the East for the last 5 or 6 years. This is a team that's been to the playoffs umpteen times regardless who the head coach is. This is a team that plays very good team basketball, and in my opinion, their roster hasn't really looked better than it does right now. I mean, maybe a few years back, I'd say about 4 years ago, their team was pretty nutty, but realistically, from the standpoint of where we're at in the NBA, they have one of the 3 best all-around teams in the league. Okay, and that goes for scoring, that goes for defense, that goes for transition, that goes to spreading the ball, and that's also including with coaching. Okay, so Boston, I'm not the biggest Boston fan. I don't hate them, but I'm not the biggest Boston fan, but I have to give credit where credit is due. My thing is that I still stand on what I said last week and what I've said up all this time, that as soon as they reach a real challenge, they will fold. I don't care if that challenge comes from the Magic or it comes from the Cavaliers or it comes from if Giannis gets back healthy again and it's Milwaukee. Any of those 3 teams are capable of knocking Boston out of the playoffs, and even if they were to make it to the NBA Finals, I'm pretty sure they'd lose to whoever's coming out of the West, and I pretty much don't care who it is coming out of the West. I'm going to take them over Boston. I just don't think that Boston is for real. At least not the Celtics, okay? There are other Boston teams that I fear, like the Bruins. Like, Jesus Christ, those guys can play hockey up there. But I had to get that out of the way because I think that's something that people don't really pay attention to. And yes, basketball is a team sport, but let's not sit here and act like we don't know how the ball gets distributed. Your best players touch the ball every play, or at least at a high percentage of plays, and it's no different than football in that aspect, and because of that, I just don't see the Heat making it past this series. With that being said, the final tally for their game yesterday against the Boston Celtics was a 114 to a 94 loss for the Heat. That is a 20-point differential in the first game of round 1, and I'm going to also say one other thing. I pride myself on the knowledge that I have of sports before I was here because I really took a lot of time, and shout out to my dad again, who had a lot of the resources for me to go back and look at the history of sports. In the early 1990s, we saw Michael Jordan be very dominant, but against different groups of teams, right? The first 4 championships he won, he faced completely different teams, right? So it was the Lakers, then it was Portland, then it was Phoenix, okay? But look who he faced, right? He faced Magic Johnson with the Lakers, right? Then with Portland, it was Clyde Drexler, okay, one of the best guards, probably the second best guard in the league at the time, right? And then in the third year would be the Phoenix Suns, which had Charles Barkley and Dan Marley and all those guys on that team, okay? And so we really got to see his diverse attack, okay, as far as his mental state of the game. He did, obviously physically he was gifted, but he wasn't the tallest guy on the court, but what he was the smartest guy on every interaction that he had against those teams, and of course he's Mr. Game 4 on top of that. So, you always start, when Chicago played a playoff series, they always started with a win in their pocket, okay? The reason why I'm bringing that up is because this is an example of what I feel like is not happening for the Heat, okay? Now, the Magic are a lot younger. I wouldn't expect it for the Magic to happen right now. I'm just glad they made the playoffs. But for the Heat, without JB being able to be that person, be the Jordan, right, for this Heat team, you're kind of just out there with some studs, and you're just going to see what happens. And that's the problem. You see what I'm saying? Without having your best player. Whereas when you look at Jordan's career, he was available, right? He was always available for his team. And he could always go out and just get you a win by himself. That was the other thing. So, without Jimmy, again, like I said, I just don't see Boston getting past this. They may win one game. If they win a game, it's going to be game 3 because Boston takes a break. They rest their players. That's a tactic that I've seen used quite often, and I personally would use it in this situation because, again, I just don't see how the Heat have a chance to win this game. For reference to the stats, guys. Bam Adebayo, he did everything that he could in that game. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. Jason Tatum goes off for a triple-double. He goes 23, 10, and 10, 23 points, 10 assists, 10 rebounds. So he was everywhere. And, unfortunately, without again, JB being able to be that utility man to do the same, to match him, get you that 22, 23 points, and run a triple-double on it. Without that, again, Bam was the only one that was really able to make anything shake. I think he had, 24 points or something like that. I don't exactly remember exactly what it was. It might have been actually less than that. But you get what I'm saying. Big man tried everything he could, but it didn't work out, guys. Game 2 of the opening Eastern Conference final, or Eastern Conference, the divisional round, I guess we would call it. It's not the semifinals, but it's you get what I'm saying. The next game is going to be played Wednesday, April 24th at 7 p.m. That's at the TD Garden, of course. First 2 games in Boston, next 2 games in Heat, and after that, if it's not a sweep, they'll alternate. But again, I don't see. Maybe game 3, Boston rest their players and they get a W, but that's pretty much all that I see. I feel terrible for Jimmy Butler. For those of you who do follow basketball or in general follow the Miami Heat, then you know that Jimmy has just gone through it, right? Because a few years ago when the Lakers won the title, they won it over JB in the bubble. That was harsh, and then obviously Eastern Conference Finals was rough, and then it's just been nonstop, and then now this year with the injury, it's just been nonstop heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak for JB. I'm a huge fan of JB, so I really hate to see him going through this, but I imagine that his time is going to be coming, but I also imagine that it may not be with the Heat. And that pains me to say, but there are other places that he can go that he would be able to win a championship with. But he's going to have to pair himself up with somebody, unfortunately. Who is it going to be? I'm not sure. But I honestly feel that if he's going to find success in the finals, he's going to have to do it away from Miami. And it just breaks my heart to say that because he's such a good player and I love Miami. But with that being said, let's revisit the comments real quick. So Larry, yes, absolutely. Screw Boston. Not a big Boston fan. I mean, I respect their history. Big fan of Larry Bird. Think the guy's one of the top 10 players to ever do it. He could be at any time top 5 as well, for that matter. I think it just depends on what we're viewing as the ratio for determining who the top 5 is. But yeah, the Heat are definitely in trouble, Tyrion. I agree. I don't know what they're going to do to try and turn this thing around besides get healthier, but that injury, I believe, was a meniscus injury. I think it was either MCL or something related to that in the knee. It was very, very scary to see that, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, well, there's their playoff chance, because I mean, JB has carried this team for the better part of 4 years. Okay, so it's going to be hard for him to do that on the sidelines. That's just the truth of it. That is truly just the truth of it. I hate that that's the case, but there's not a whole lot that we can do about it except for send those prayers out to him. So good luck, JB. Get better. And good luck to them. And yeah, Jen, definitely a bit of a surprise there. Mobley kind of out of nowhere dropping these dimes and whatnot. But then I think part of the game is that, just exactly that, where we have these guys that can just kind of come up out of nowhere and add that layer of success through playing hard, playing consistent, and just doing your job, guys. If you guys remember a few years back for Miami, they had Max Strus was going off for them. And then there was, what's the other big guy's name? Forgot what his name was off the top of my head. But they just had their role players actually playing their roles. And when you're able to get that, I'll give you an example. Look at the Nuggets, right? The Nuggets have 2 starting teams in one team, right? So you have your regular starting 5 with Jokic and Murray and Caldwell Pope and all those guys. And then you could just start cycling guys off the bench. Aaron Gordon comes in. He's going to get... Y'all remember last year he put up 50 points against the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals? Y'all remember that? It's just insane. So when you have these teams with deep benches, we saw this from Golden State mostly. If you guys remember that 4-year period where they were just going to every finals that there was. And part of it was their bench. If you remember Sean Livingston and the rest of those guys, they would just jump off the bench and get you 20 points a game. That's massive, right? And I think that's really what the playoffs are going to come down to, is who has the better bench. Cleveland has a pretty good bench. And at any given time, because of the success from the individuals, like Donovan Mitchell, who we'll talk about in a moment, it's contagious. I think that success is contagious. Tom Brady is an example of that. Peyton Manning is an example of that. That a level of success is contagious, especially when you're playing with that player. So, good job to Boston. Still don't like them, but Heat, try to get it together. We're gonna pray for you guys. I mean, that's pretty much all we can do. It's up to God now. The Magic, on the other hand, right, this is a team that entered the playoffs with a lot of promise. They entered at a 5 seeding. This team was looking really, really good. They were able to defeat Milwaukee, in the final game of the season pretty handily at that. So to see them play against the Cavs and just fail to score even 90 points, this is just really unfortunate for them. Now, unfortunately, I have to be critical where all season I've been saying that this is a young team. And while, albeit, it is a very young team, the issue here is that doesn't matter in the playoffs. It's win or go home. Y'all have seen the commercials. Win or go home. If you don't win, you go home. And right now, the Magic are playing like they want to go home. Okay? Again, young team. I get it. No playoff experience. I get it. But this is where you got to step up and you got to try to be Boston here. Back when Boston was young, Tatum and Brown, them boys didn't have any playoff experience. They had to just go make it happen, right? And you make it happen by doing your job, staying disciplined, staying focused, not turning the ball over, and you got to score 100 points, right? Like, these are simple aspects of basketball that haven't changed in the better part of 50 years, and here we are 50 years later still saying the exact same thing. So, in order for our boys in blue to be successful, they are going to have to do... They're gonna have to do those things, okay? Now, as far as game 2, that's gonna be tomorrow night, obviously at 7 p.m. in case you want to watch that ball game. They got a chance though. I mean, this team is healthy. They're young. They can do it. They just have to do it. Agreed, Dad. One game at a time, Magic. All right, let's put it all together, boys. Paulo Banchero, he's an absolute savage. The guy's still going off, but he needs help, right? Because when he's the only one scoring 20+ points. I mean, it's gonna be a rough day in Orlando, okay? Period. The end. All right. The rest of the boys got to step up, and again, they're young, but you got to step up. You got to hit shots. You need to practice before and after the game. Just get into the rhythm of what basketball is, and isolate yourself. Don't feel anything. All right. Don't do anything whatsoever. All right. But play basketball and do your job. All right, you guys will find some success. Like I said, though, Banchero, 24 points, 7 assists, 5 rebounds. Gonna probably need a little bit more than that if you're gonna win. Donovan Mitchell is an example of that. He goes off for 30. But you expect that from the Spider, right? He was amazing in Utah, and he's still amazing here in Cleveland. So, good luck to the Magic in Game 2. Again, that's going to be tomorrow night at 7 p.m., just in case you want to check that out. I'll be watching that until Monday Night Raw comes on, and then I'll be switching back and forth after that, so I'll be able to give you guys a heads up on that next week. But that's pretty much what we're looking at for the Magic again. Both teams losing their opening game in the first round of the playoffs here today, this weekend, I should say, guys. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to look towards the next game and just kind of build off of that for both teams. Magic have a better chance than the Heat do, but, we've seen crazier things happen. Let's go ahead and get into our first break of the evening. When we get back, we'll go ahead and cover what's going on with the Rays, and then we'll talk about the Bolts versus the Panthers, and then I'll send you guys on your way with a little bit of food for thought and a recap on what happened in UFC 300. Keep it locked here at Palm Tree Sports Radio for more after the break. My name is Corey Pujols, your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Yes, sir, and just like that, we are back with Palm Tree Sports Radio. Again, my name is Corey Pools, your host. And as always, this is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go ahead and revisit some comments real quick, you guys. First things first, Larry, I appreciate it, my man. The praise is always a good feeling that pops up whenever I hear you say that. So that's what my goal is at the end of the day, make sure I'm doing you guys right. I appreciate it, you guys. And you guys just keep on keeping on because it makes me happy. It really, really does. If you have to see the smile on my face right now. But now that we are back with Palm Tree Sports, we've wrapped up what's going on in the NBA, guys. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the MLB. So here's the deal, and I've said this before, so for those of you who know, down here in Tampa, Florida, regardless of wherever you guys may be listening to, this is the Yankees' second home, okay? I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. George Steinbrenner Field is right across the street from the Raymond James Stadium. Raymond James Stadium, for those of you who do not know, is where the Buccaneers play football and where the first team in NFL history ever won an NFL championship on their own home field. Okay, so as legendary as that moment is, an equally as legendary monument stands right across the street from them on Dale Mabry Avenue. And it's George Steinbrenner Field, which is where the Yankees play some of their spring baseball. So instead of playing up there in the north, because obviously it's cold, they come down here, and they play spring baseball pretty much every year. It's a spectacle every time they come down here. Of course, the Rays and the Yanks hook it up beforehand, and they really have a good time. And also, for those of you who have been to Tampa, Florida, who have been over there on Dale Mabry Avenue and seen that that area, right behind Raymond James Stadium is actually a former practice field for the Yanks, and it actually houses a monument that shows all of their World Championship victories throughout the year. So it's actually really a big deal down here. Again, there are a ton of New Yorkers down here, Mom included. Mom, I love you if you can hear me. Go Yankees, go Rays. I love you, Mom. But there are a lot of transported New Yorkers, New Jersey men down there. Dad, you too. Showing some dad some love. Okay, New Jersey in the house. But so needless to say, whenever the Rays and the Yanks hook it up, you're always going to see a lot of Rays fans, but you're also going to see Rays fans that are cut down the middle, and they're also Yankees fans. So, unless it's playoff time, we're not really too concerned with whether we lose to them or win against them. Of course, we'd like to see our team win, but it's important to know that the Yankees have a second home down here, right? So, with that being said, of course, the Rays and the Yankees hooked it up today. The Yanks obviously in first place in the AL East. Unfortunately, the Rays are in last place, and it's going to show via their records, and I'm going to go ahead and give you that information right now. The Rays are rocking a 12-11 record. That's what, one game over 500? Terrible, right? Compared to what we did last year and the way things have been going, absolutely terrible. But what can we do about it, right? Now, the Yanks, on the other hand, they're a far cry from the team that they were last year, and they're actually playing really good baseball right now. They're 15-7, rocking first place in the AL East. They take game 3 of this 3-game series that they were able to win 2-1 against the Rays. The score of this game would end up being 5-4 earlier today. Unfortunately, another loss to the Rays, like I said, sends them one game closer to sitting at 500. They're going to have to win this next game against the Tigers. That game tomorrow is going to be at 6:50 p.m., so just before... All right, the Magic game. All right, just before the Magic game. If you want to check out, the first couple of minutes of that, then before you start, going back and forth between those two games, that's the heads up there. Again, the Yankees were able to win this series 2-1. Now the Rays have to move on to the Tigers. They can beat the Tigers, but I feel like they can beat any team, but they have to play well. And unfortunately, that leads to our third point of what's going on with the Rays. This entire team is struggling. I can't point to an area right now where we're doing well. I can't. We blew a save last night, right? Earlier today, my bad. We blew the save. Our best hitters not hitting the ball. We're not really getting on base at all either. And when we do get on base, we leave people on base. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I love baseball. And I'll watch baseball. I love going to Rays games. I absolutely adore my team. But there's one thing that I'll tell you that the Rays do very, very well, and that's leave people on base. And for those of you who have played baseball, for those of you who know anything about baseball, it's aggravating as all hell. Okay, it's essentially the same as being like on 3rd down and 10 in the NFL, and you convert the 3rd down, and then there's a penalty, and now it's 3rd and 20. That's how it feels when you leave people on base. It's just like, all right, so what's the point then? Like, what's the point of doing any of this? All right, so we have to do a better job at those 3 aspects of the game. We have to be more consistent, we have to get on base, and we have to score when we get on base, okay? Defensively, I'd like to say that there's more that we can do, but the real problem here is that obviously, offensively, we can't stay off the mound, all right? I mean, I just feel like we're pitching more than we're hitting, okay? And unfortunately, whenever you're pitching more than you're hitting, you're going to lose, right? Because pitch count matters, right? Like, it's the middle of the 5th, and your guy's already at 80 pitches, okay? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So the Rays are going to have to find some level of consistency. It's going to start with one man. It's going to spread out to 3 and then, double itself and double and double and double. But until we can figure out who's going to be that spark, okay, to get this engine going, we're pretty much going to be stuck here in neutral for a while, and we're going to be looking at 500 by the time the season ends. Maybe enough to make the playoffs? I don't know. We'll see what happens, but if they're playing like this, I don't want to make the playoffs, okay? And the reason why I say that is because we're not talking about a team that's been able to find success before when they struggled. We're talking about a team that's played astronomically well at times. There are times we looked at the Rays and we're like, this is the best ball club in baseball. And then what happens? We get in the freaking playoffs, right? And we fall flat on our face. All right, let's not act like we don't know that who the Rays are, baseball logic speaking. Okay, in that terminology, this is a team that reminds me of what can I compare them to? Boston Celtics, perfect analogy, right? Like it's a team that will sit there and they'll play well during the regular season, and they may even play well in the playoffs, and then they'll get to a point where it really matters, where it really counts, and they'll fail. All right, now we believe in our team. But I said this last week, I'm going to say it again. This is the only team that hasn't been able to win the best and the biggest. Okay? The Bucks, the Bolts, the Heat, okay? The FSU, USF, Miami. These are all teams that have been able to find success in the big game in more than one occasion. All right? So, unfortunately, Rays, we need you guys to get it together. We love you. But we also know what you're capable of, and we hold you to a higher standard than what we're seeing right now, period, the end. So let's get on track, right, boys? Let's get this figured out, huh? So, Dad, you mentioned that you had the chance of meeting Steinbrenner twice before his passing. Yeah, he was a legend here, man. He was a legend. He had his finger in a little bit of everything, too, and that was the other thing. Like you said, the bull riding, the PBR. My mom is a huge fan for PBR. For those of you who do not know, the bull riding contest, that was actually something my mom was a huge fan of back in the day. So that it kind of, leans into that, of course. But yeah, he's a real nice guy. And he did a lot for the city of Tampa. He did a large amount of things that people don't really realize here to help make this thing successful. And so shout out to you, Dad, for that, and shout out to Mr. Steinbrenner. May he rest in peace, and to his kids, of course. I think one of his kids still lives down here. But yeah. Good stuff there. So, but yeah, that's what's going on, guys, with the Rays. Like I said, Yanks playing good baseball right now. You know how the Yanks are. Even if they have a bad year, you can almost count on them to be up the very next year. So, it's the truth of it. We're gonna have to try and play more like the Yankees right now. As ironic as we're saying this, some people who don't understand the relationship between the Yanks and the Rays are probably pulling their hair out right now. But it is what it is, and yeah, and shout out to Grandpa too, because so for those of you who do not know, my grandfather is a huge baseball fan. I think that's kind of where it trickles down for us, for me and my dad as well. And he was a huge baseball fan, and being that he was living in New Jersey at the time, as my dad was saying, that their first game that they went to, the first Yankee game they went to, was down there in the Boogie, where my mom is from. My mom is from the Bronx, so shout out Bronx, New York, shout out Yankees. But yeah, there's a lot of continuity A lot of continuity, guys. So just a little food for thought there for the ear, as far as that is concerned. But yeah, hey, it is what it is. Like I said, next game against the Tigers tomorrow, 6:50 p.m. Just in case you want to check it out. Again, that game is going to be just before the Magic game. So a quick recap on these games, just so I make sure that you guys have the timing down. Tomorrow night, you have 2 games. Okay, you have the Magic versus the Cavs, game 2, the opening round of the playoffs. All right, that's going to be in Cleveland, and then you have the Rays game at 6:50, 10 minutes before the Magic game, and that game is going to be against the Tigers, and that's starting a new 3-game series against the Tigers. So just a heads up on that. And for the Heat game, just in case I didn't give you that information, I'm pretty sure I did, but if I didn't, that game is going to be Wednesday, April 24th at 7 p.m. in the TD Garden. Okay, so all these games are away games. That's the other thing to take in consideration. All right, guys. But yeah, that next Heat game is going to be on Wednesday, and so that's it for your schedule for those 3. Let's go ahead and move on over to the NHL. So the NHL is a little bit different. This is where I'm not going to give you a spread as I would normally do between both of these teams because they happen to be playing each other, guys. So this is one of the things that I mentioned actually last week. I said that this would most likely be the most exciting series that you guys were going to see in the opening round of the NHL playoffs. And so far it looks to be that is the case, okay? So the Panthers take the first game 3-2. It was a close game the whole game, and then just at the end you could tell that the Bolts they just didn't have an answer to try and get closer to the game. They just didn't have an answer to close it up and at least try to tie the game before it ended. So, but then again, this is the Panthers we're talking about. Panthers are playing absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's how can I say it? It's unfortunate, but it's more or less what you expect after watching this Panthers team play hockey all year. I mean, there are little to no holes in this team's game. This is one of the 2 best all-around team hockey teams as far as continuity is concerned and as far as the mechanism that is teamwork is concerned, okay? The team plays extraordinary on both sides of the puck. They have 2 tremendous goalies. I can't look at you and say that there's a way to defeat this team that's not conventional, okay? That's just the truth of the matter. And I honestly, at the end of the day, I think that this series, like I said, is going to be the best series playoff-wise in the first round for hockey. So if you guys want to check out more of the Bolts versus the Panthers, the next game is going to be Tuesday, April 23rd, 7:30 p.m. So that's going to be this Tuesday, of course, like I said. So Monday night, you got 2 games. You got Magic, you got Rays. After that, you got Bolts, Panthers, and then after that, you have Heat, Boston, as far as Florida sports are concerned. Just in case you want to check that out, or you're looking for when and where to place your bets, that would be the time and place to do so. Again, that's going to be game 2 of the opening round of the playoffs for the NHL. And, so I think the Bolts can win, but they're going to have to dig. And here's the deal. If they're going to make it to the end, if they have any shot at a Stanley Cup, and I'm saying this because I watched a video earlier where they were talking about some of the teams that were playing, and some of the usual suspects that are there, Bruins, Panthers, out west, you got the same, LA and all those guys. Yeah, yada yada yada. We get it, right? But this is a team, guys, if you remember just a few years ago, this was probably the most feared team in hockey, okay? The Bolts went back to back, they almost made it 3 in a row, and they're in the playoffs for a 5th straight year. Guys, listen, if they're gonna make a push, it starts here. Period. The end. Because if they can't win here, odds are the dynasty's over with. Okay? That dynasty or formation of what was going to be a dynasty will have been over if they are not able to overcome the Panthers here, because you know what happens after a team buzzes out the way they did. And if you don't, go back and look at a couple of the teams I'm about to mention, no matter what sport we're talking about, okay? Go back and look at the recent Buccaneers, okay? From Super Bowl victories, NFC Championship game, and just failure after failure after failure after that. And we're talking about by inches. We're talking about by less than 7 points, right? Again, talking about the Rays. This is a Rays team that has done that, where they'll make the playoffs. They'll be the best team in all of baseball until the playoffs get here, okay? So we're really going to need to see our boys step up and really try to take control, all right, of this series. And it starts with a win on Tuesday night. Period. The end. It starts with a win on Tuesday night. Get back to 1-1. All right, and one game at a time, just as Dad said earlier, one game at a time, one possession at a time, one power play at a time. You know, just we're going to have to execute. And if we can't, guys, listen, it's going to be time for us to start looking at how to rebuild this team into the monstrosity that it was a few years back, period, the end. Now, let's go ahead and dive back into the comments real quick. Yeah, Dad, Cleveland, Cleveland's got a lot going on right now. Let's not act like we don't, right? So you got the Cleveland Guardians, best record in the AL, 16-6. I saw that earlier, right? So the Yanks are one game behind them, right? And then you have the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? Playing tremendous basketball behind the Spider, of course, Donovan Mitchell. You gotta love it, right? And then don't forget about Ohio State. Ohio State was actually relevant this past year, and they had the best wide receiver in the country, Marvin Harrison Jr., who declared for the draft. So Ohio State's about to be back on the map, too. And that should go to tell you right now that Cleveland is in a big spot. The Cleveland Browns made the playoffs last year, okay? And maybe if they were completely healthy, they would have gone further. I mean, who knows? But Cleveland's got a buzz going on. First big buzz, really since LeBron James. I would say JB, but oh my bad. Which JB am I talking about? Joe Burrow, right? Because Joe plays for Cincinnati. Of course, Cincinnati and Cleveland aren't exactly, but they're both in Ohio. That's the point that I'm making. But they got a little buzz going on right now, so, we'll see what happens there as they continue to play baseball, because I hope that they're able to lock it up and continue to play well. But again, only time will tell. Yes, sir. Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it, my man. Gotta spread it, because if you got it, that's what we're called to do, right? Is if we have it, share it. Let's see. What are the expectations for the rest of the Panthers Lightning series? Still think that Vasilevsky can steal a game or two. So I think that he can. He's capable of doing it, but let's not act like he isn't getting older, right? Like I've noticed the slowdown from 3 years ago. Yeah, I've definitely noticed him slow down. There was once upon a time where this guy was one of the top 3 in the league. All right, and right now he's still really, really good, but I think he's more good because of his experience versus just going out there and, like you said, winning a game or two. Do I think that they can? Yeah, Stamkos is still playing pretty well on the offensive side of the puck. I think really what we're going to have to limit is the struggles, first and foremost, that we're having in transition with turning the puck over. I think that's one of the biggest issues that I've seen, that I think that if it's like basketball, right? When we look at a team that's turning the ball over too much and we're saying if you could just turn a couple of those turnovers, 2 or 3 of those turnovers into points, right? Or get the other team in the foul trouble, right? Like collect a foul, get to the line, slow the game down a little bit. And I think that's basically what the Bolts are going to have to do. If they're going to have any shot at being the Panthers, and if Vasilevsky is going to have a chance to steal a game or two, they're going to have to slow the game down. And they're going to have to do that by, again, playing better in transition, scoring on the power play, and limiting those offensive options for the other team. I think those are the 3 keys. Like I said, Stamkos is still playing pretty well offensively. I think that our guys were a naturally defensive team. We've been a naturally defensive team for the last few years. Of course, we go off on offense from time to time. But let's not act like that's not the strength of this team, or at least was the strength when we were finding success. Obviously, there's more than one way to find success, but rebuilds take time. And to rebuild a team away from defense when defense wins championships, we're going to need him to steal a game or two. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. If we're going to win this series against the Panthers, we're going to have to do all those things, and he's definitely going to have to steal a game or two. Do I think he can? Yes. Will he? We shall see, my friend. We shall see. But excellent question. I think that moving forward, with this next game on Tuesday, because they're going to have a little bit of time, right? They're going to have a little bit of time. You got 2 days, right? Well, a day and a half-ish, right? Because this game ended not too long, a few hours ago. So, you're going to have some time to put it together, but you only got about a day and a half to do it. And at least half a day is going to be resting, right? So, if not the whole day. So, hopefully you have a game plan. At the end of the day, that's pretty much all I can say. Like I said, I laid down the recipe for success for our team and what they're going to have to do. But the leaders are going to have to be leaders, and that's why I think your question was a phenomenal question. Again, they're going to have to play better on the defensive side of the puck. That's just what it is. Again, that next game is going to be Tuesday, April 23rd, 7:30 p.m., just in case you're wanting to check that game out. Like I said, I think this is going to be the best series in hockey. So if you like hockey and you want to see what's going on over here on the East Coast, this is going to be the game for you to watch. Period, the end. Both of these teams have a shot, as good a shot as anybody, at taking a Stanley Cup home. 2 of the very best teams in all of hockey, in my humble opinion. And so we're in for a treat one way or another. But again, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the Panthers' biggest fan. It's Go Bolts, okay? It's always going to be Go Bolts. We love those guys in blue. For the record and for reference, their records were split by about 7.5 games. The Panthers entered with a 52-24-6 record. The Bolts were entering with a 45-29-8 record. So you can kind of see just one team played a little bit more consistent hockey than the other. But again, both teams in Florida, proud of both teams. But let's go Bolts. Let's try and get game 2 out of the way and get that dub. So yeah, guys, that's what's going on there for the world of sports as far as the state of Florida is concerned, guys. That's every bit of information that I have as far as the relevancy of what's going on. For those of you who have been following what's been going on in the college side of things, whether it's football or basketball, as you guys know, again, college basketball didn't end well for the state of Florida. Is what it is. Can't do much about it. The WNBA draft just took place recently. That was pretty big. We got to see Caitlin Clark and my baby girl, Angel Reese. I'm a huge Angel Reese fan. I think she's a phenomenal talent. It's a shame what happened to her in the in the semifinals, with her injury and all that, but I think she's an absolutely lovely, beautiful woman. I can't wait to see what she's able to do in the WNBA. I'm a big fan of hers. Same thing with Caitlin Clark. She's an absolute juggernaut offensively. Watching that game was a treat. I enjoyed it, and even though I was rooting for LSU, I was happy to see Caitlin Clark do her thing. Congratulations on both of those ladies for being able to, congratulations, just congratulations. That's all I can say, right? So yeah, just had to throw that out there. For college football, guys, for those of you who do not know, okay, DJ Lagway had him a day. All right, the kid looked absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, he threw a pick, but I'm going back to this simply because, again, our Gators are going to have the toughest schedule coming up. Don't be surprised if you guys see DJ Lagway play some games, okay? Just don't be surprised if you do, and don't be surprised if he goes off, all right? The kid's got it. I'm letting you know right now, he's got it, okay? I rewatched the highlights for the Orange and Blue game. He has it, okay? And I just really hope he has the opportunity to shine, and I think that's going to make or break the success between this hardest schedule that was given to the Gators this year. And again, I can't wait to see how things pan out. I am a little scared, but I'm more excited. I love my boys in blue and orange, and I can't wait to see what happens there. FSU is still salty, guys. For those of you who are wondering how FSU was handling things, they're still upset about how this past year ended. And I want to be the first one to say it doesn't really matter. They can stay upset for all I care about. They weren't beating any of the teams that were in the Final Four discussion anyway. And it just goes to show by what Georgia did to them. And mind you, Georgia came out, you knew they were going to execute, you knew they were going to play good football, but for FSU to come out and play the way that they did and fall flat and then still suggest that they deserve to be in that conversation, for me, is just the biggest laugh in the face. The only laugh that's bigger than that is that Miami's going to be good next year, because I just don't see it. Miami is a team that's capable of shooting themselves in the foot, but nobody else in the foot. And if you can't if you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, you might as well not show up, right? Like, I mean, at least use rubber bullets or something, but realistically, it's going to be a very chaotic year for football and college as far as that is concerned this coming up year, but it should be entertaining. At the end of the day, I think that's the part that's going to end up being the reason why people watch. It's going to be entertaining. As far as the NFL is concerned, guys, hey, listen, we're still in the offseason. We're getting ready for the draft. I've seen a bunch of names of what people are looking at, and those names continue to change. At the end of the day, we don't know what Tampa Bay is going to do. We know what the Jags are going to do. They're not going to trade up or trade down. They have to focus on solidifying what they have without losing draft picks right now, because right now we're not sure if Trevor Lawrence is the answer for Jacksonville, okay? That's just what it comes down to, all right? We're not sure if he's going to be the answer or not. We're going to find out within a year or two, but I wouldn't be surprised if things don't work out this year that they ship him. Okay, I do like Trevor Lawrence, I do, but I can't continue to create excuses for him. I just can't. And then as far as Miami is concerned, are they going to sign Odell Beckham Jr. is the question. Honestly, this is a team that made the playoffs last year, had a lot of firepower. They're going to have a lot of continuity moving forward. They have the ability to do whatever it is that they want to do. They just have to execute. This is a team that's capable of doing it. I don't see them trading up or down with their position. I believe that they're just going to go with the best person at each position that they need to fill within the first 3 rounds. And after that, it's just going to be about adding depth to the key positions that they don't have depth in. Miami's in the best case scenario for all 3 of the NFL teams right now. I think that the Buccaneers are the sleeper of our 3 teams here in the NFL. This team was able to re-sign Mike Evans. We've got Chris Godwin. We've got Baker Mayfield. We've got the core. We just need to build upon it. I think that an offensive lineman would be the way to go in the first round. Listen, there's going to be a lot of talent out there, but guys, it doesn't matter if you can't move the ball, right? So I'm going to say that offensive line is going to be the way for the Bucs to go. If they don't go offensive lines because the guy that they wanted is not there, or we're making a bad decision, or there's just somebody who's that freaking good that's still available in the first round. But guys, that's something for you guys to take in consideration. We got the draft coming up very, very soon. I personally can't wait. I'm going to be glued to the TV, and I'll be talking to you guys about it as soon as it gets here, I look forward to, guys. I can't wait to break that down to you. Before we get into what happened with UFC 300 and what's going on tonight in AEW Dynasty, I believe Willow Nightingale just won the TBS Women's Championship from what's her dang name? Julia Hart. So congratulations to Willow Nightingale getting her career on a roll. She definitely deserves it, but I understand that this storyline is only setting up for her to face the CEO later on down the line. I wouldn't imagine that they do it any other way, especially how they tore it up in Japan. For those of you who watch pro wrestling, that's what's going on there. And then, of course, for those of you who watched WrestleMania, I don't think we talked about that last week. Just a quick heads up. WrestleMania was good. Not the best WrestleMania, but the best main event in WrestleMania history. I'll be the first one to tell you I was absolutely starstruck watching all of those guys come out and do what they did. It was amazing. It was amazing. If you haven't had a chance to go back and look at WrestleMania Night 2, I would totally tell you, go back and look at the main events. Go look back at both the main events. For main event for Night 1 and main event for Night 2. The other matches were good. Some of them were letdowns. Some of them were actually outstanding. The women's tag team match was pretty good. I think that was probably one of the better matches. I'm a huge fan of the Usos, but unfortunately just super kicking each other, to heck they could have done so much better than that. And I know that they have more up their sleeve than what they were given. So, overall, great card for WrestleMania. Main event really solidified everything. Congratulations, Cody Rhodes. Well deserved for finishing your story, and I can't wait to see what happens there. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, he was phenomenal. I mean, I can't tell you how him being added back to the WWE for this storyline specifically was absolutely amazing. Again, if you're a fan of The Rock, go back and look what he was able to do. It was a perfect example of why he's so good in Hollywood, right? So just a heads up there. But like I said, that was WrestleMania, guys. Roman Reigns is going to take a break, a much-deserved break. Get well, feel better, bro, and just keep going there. Seth Rollins, same thing. I think he wrestled with a torn meniscus on both nights. That man's a savage. Thank you, Seth Rollins, for making it such a phenomenal show. And then, obviously, again, like I said, AEW Dynasty's tonight. So if you're looking for something to watch, that's going to be a really good card to watch. A couple of great main events going to be on tonight. I personally look forward to seeing it. I believe tonight is the night that Swerve Strickland takes the title from Samoa Joe. For those of you who know wrestling, those are two of the biggest names right now in wrestling. And so that's going to be a phenomenal main event. I'm going to be watching it myself, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it next week. But let's jump back into the chat real quick before we wrap things up with what happened in 300. Because let me tell you, if you didn't watch 300, you're playing your own self. So first things first, let's get back here and see what everybody had to say. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, so yeah, Dad, you make a really good point there. With the Magic in Game 2, Banchero's gonna have to steal him a game, right? If they're gonna have a chance against Cleveland, it's Banchero versus Mitchell here, and the two best players on each team, right? So Banchero can do it. The problem is Donovan Mitchell's got a ton of experience, and he's still in his prime, right? And he's got probably a better team off of experience alone, right? Because this Cleveland Cavaliers team is a little bit older, and that means they have a little bit more experience. And experience is everything, guys, in sports. It's everything. It look at martial arts, for example, right? Or boxing, right? You see these guys, like we just saw Ryan Garcia destroy Devin Haney last night. Well, there was a lot of experience. Him fighting Tank. Devin hasn't fought Tank or anybody on that level. So Ryan fighting Tank was actually big for him because now that he's fought the best that the world really has to offer below heavyweight, I mean, he's in an area where it's like, if you're not Tank, then you're not touching him. And I think that's what's going on here. I think the Magic need to still develop some more for them to be able to contend with a team that's moving on all cylinders like the Cavaliers are. And remember, the Cavaliers are playing very good basketball throughout the year. The only reason why they're not the 1 or the 2 is because look who the 1 and the 2 are, right? They're the two best overall teams as far as the team aspect is concerned in the East, right? With the Knicks and the Celtics. So, just some food for thought there. Yeah, Larry, those damn Rays. Man, listen. Like I said, it's like watching Le Mans back in the 60s when they made, I think it was the 60, yeah, the 67 when they made the Ford GT40, and you're like expecting Porsche and all these other cars to do more than what they're doing. And then the GT40 is just like, nah, fam, I'm going to blow everybody away with my supercharged V8. Like, I mean, cool, you got a supercharged V6 or you got a V8, but it's not turbocharged. I mean, I don't care. I'm going to win because I got a turbocharged V8. Period. The end. I mean, look what I did. I put $100,000 into a vehicle, and look what happens. I feel like that's what's going on with the Rays. They were last year they were up, and I mean up, clouds up, right? And now they're just not up anymore. But yeah, Ricky, let's see. Still holding out hope Orlando can make it a series with a nothing to lose mentality, but Mitchell is going to be a tough spot. It's exactly what I was saying earlier, my man. I mean, I agree with you. I think at the end of the day, you know, and they have to play with that nothing to lose mentality because this is their first time in the playoffs in, what, a decade? You know? Like, let's think about that for a second. These guys haven't been here in forever. The last time they were here, LeBron was still in the East. I mean, he hadn't been in the East in like 4 or 5 years now, okay? So, you know, I think that Orlando, they're going to have to play with that mindset. If they don't play with this mindset, it's going to be a 4-1 victory for Mitchell, for the Spider, and the Cavs, and they're going to be moving back into familiar territory, at least for them, from a few years back, less than a decade ago. Vasilevsky is the key. Yeah, he is. He is the key. He's going to have to steal a game or two, and if he can't, then, I mean, again, we know what's going to happen here, and it's going to be the fall, and this offseason we'll see a lot of moves that we're not really wanting to see, but we'll have no choice but to see it as we continue downwards. You know, the only hope is for teams like the Cavaliers who have been able to go down but find a way to stop the going down and go back up. And that's not an easy thing to do because it's not every day that Utah decides to just trade their best player to Cleveland, you know? I mean, that's the other way to look at it, too. Jen, yes, the Guardians are killing it so far. They're playing tremendous baseball. I mean, they look about as good as you can look right now. I mean, barring what the Rays did last year, I don't know if another team is playing baseball as well as they are right now because they're doing it on both sides of the ball. And that's what you ask for when you're watching baseball, right? Like, you want to see some heavy swings, you want to see some good defense and some great pitching, and that's what they're doing. So keep it up, Guardians, you know, just hopefully y'all don't do it against the Rays. You know? Yeah, Kershaw, yeah, you know, you're right. I did kind of let him off the hook, Dad. You got a point there. Kershaw is definitely going to have to step up. It can't just be Stamkos and Vasilevsky. It can't just be those guys. It's going to have to be everybody, like, and chief among them Kershaw, because that guy's been a star. He's been a stud for us. He's literally just been phenomenal, okay? And he hasn't been phenomenal as of late. I mean, and when I mean as of late, I just mean like the last 2 games specifically. But you get what I'm saying. Like, they can do it. They just have to do it, you know? So, hey, we'll see what happens there. You know, not really sure if they're going to be able to pull it out, but I really hope that they are. Let's see what else you had to say, Dad. Yeah, no, this is the year for the WNBA. I don't know if you guys realize this, but Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark were able to bring such a layer of... I think that was the most watched college basketball game, women's basketball game in WNBA history. It might be WNBA. Women's college basketball history. Somebody go look that up for me. But I think that was a stat they were giving us, that they had an unprecedented amount of people that were watching this game. I was one of them. Again, huge fan of both of these guys. So... you know, I think that this is going to be the year where people really start to pay attention to the WNBA and see what it really has to offer, especially if you watch that Iowa-LSU game, because that was a heavyweight fight. I was enjoying that game, even though LSU was getting knocked around, even though my baby got injured, you know, they were playing phenomenal basketball, both of those teams were. And again, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, I feel like they're destined to do this like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning did. I think that's basically what we're about to see for the next 5 to 10 years out of those two. Can't wait to see what happens there. Dad showing love to the Lady Gators. Yep. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Florida athletics, the University of Florida, I'm not just impartial to. Yes, it's my favorite college. The Florida Gators team means everything to me. Dad took me up to Gainesville a couple of times before. I've been on the field, ran up and down the bleachers, and let me be the first one to tell you, that place, the Swamp, is magical. I'm not joking to you guys. You know, you go somewhere and you just feel a tingle and you get those goosebumps, but you feel good, your eyes get big and all those things. I'm telling you right now, okay, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, okay, is literally a magical location. It's literally magical, okay? I personally love it to pieces, and let me tell you, it's every bit of what you think. And if you haven't been during sundown, oh my God, it's one of the best sunsets you'll ever see. I promise. But this team isn't just a football team. This college specifically is actually a leader in medical academics, and that's not just for the medical field, but for the veterinarian field as well. And among that, as far as athletics are concerned, it doesn't matter which sport you pick, we run it. Okay, I don't care. Go look at what we've been able to do. Go look at our gymnastics teams for the men and the women's. Go look at our lady baseball team. The softball team, as Dad you mentioned right there, 10th in the nation, could be higher. Go look at our men's baseball team. We have what's his name? God, Jack. What's his freaking last name? It's some with an M. I can't get. I got so many names in my head. But go look. He just set a record. 9 straight games with a home run, guys. 9 straight games playing college baseball with a home run. Okay, that's the equivalent to like a quarterback going out and throwing for like 2 or 3 touchdowns every game for 9 straight games. You're gonna be like, he's the Heisman. What are you talking about? Like, are you kidding me? The dude, he's got freaking, what is that? You play 10 games, 35 touchdowns accounted for by himself, right? Just because he's playing the game. Look at our track and field, our outdoors teams. Absolutely phenomenal work. We sent multiple people to the Olympics, okay? For outdoor sports, okay? And when I mean outdoor sports, I mean everything from baseball, wrestling, to what I was just talking about. You guys get what I'm saying. This University of Florida is a very, very gifted place. It's a very magical place, and that's something that I really love to talk about because of the fact of what we were able to do, not just, again, in football, but in basketball. One of the few colleges in college athletics that have won 5 national titles in 5 major sport categories, right? So we've won football and basketball in the same year, actually. We've won baseball, softball, right? We've won outdoor, which is track and field, and gymnastics. So there's 6 right there. I believe we also have a swimming title to our names as well. So very storied college, guys. For those of you who do not know, go check out some of the things that the University of Florida has been able to do. You'll be surprised. But yeah, the Lady Gators are completely unreal, bro. Like, and this is something that you expect because both the men and the women have played phenomenal baseball over the last decade or so. So, looking forward to seeing what they do. Just looking forward to see what continues to happen right now. But listen, softball's in a great spot right now. Let me tell you, there's a ton of great teams out there in softball. And I was just watching a couple of teams. It was LSU and Tennessee or something like that. I think it was a week ago or something, maybe 2 weeks ago. And they had a knockdown match. I love watching the passion that these girls play with in softball. Same thing with the guys. Was it Jack Caglione? Is that his name? Jack Caglione, I think it is. Yeah, that's the guy for the Gators who's batting crazy right now. But again, not to be outdone, been enjoying the softball as much as regular baseball is concerned too. So now that we have mentioned those few bits, last thing I want to talk to you guys. Yep, Jack Caglione, that's the man right there, man. He is an absolute monster. Go check his highlight tape out, guys. The man is cracked, okay? But let's go ahead and wrap up what we have going on for you guys. For those of you who did not watch UFC 300, I wanted you guys just to know about this because, again, biggest card in UFC history. If you love martial arts, if you love contact sports in general, this was going to be the card for you. If you haven't seen it yet, please, I beg you, go look at the highlights. I promise you will not be let down. From the very first match all the way to the end, the first match was Cody Garbrandt versus Davison Figueiredo. Davison was able to pull off the rear naked choke for the Vic. Good job for him. The entire pre-show was absolutely phenomenal. Prelims, absolutely phenomenal. Early card, phenomenal as well. But as you start to move, all right, into the end of the prelims, you see Jiri Prochazka. The man he put on a show. So good job, Yuri. Very proud of your performance there, bro. And then moving forward over into what took place in the main card. Like I said, for those of you who did not see it, go check it out, guys. I probably touched on this last week as well, but I want to touch on it again because, again, it's totally worth it, okay? For the main event, we got to see Alex Pineda knock out Jamal Hill. Listen, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Jamal Hill was going to have a chance to win, but I don't think it was standing and banging. And if it was going to be standing and banging, you're going to have to mix some wrestling into the mix. You're just going to have to mix wrestling into it. To stand up and trade with Alex Pineda and you're not Israel Adesanya is a death sentence, okay? For those of you who did not watch him, the man was a former two-weight kickboxing champion back in Pride, or Pride Glory, one of those two promotions. Before coming to the UFC, of course, he followed Israel Adesanya from there over here, and was also the person who has beaten Israel Adesanya, was the first and only person to beat him at middleweight at the time before he lost to Sean Strickland. Now, with that being said, Izzy is the anomaly. He's the only person that has the ability to really beat Alex Pineda, but, you know, it is what it is. I think that this makes them both better fighters, and I can't really wait to see what happens moving forward. I think that Alex is going to have a chance to go for the heavyweight title, and I think that if John Jones is the champion, and if John is not able to wrestle him, because Alex is a big guy, and I'm pretty sure Alex can get near to that weight that John is at. I think that if Alex can defend the wrestling, which is going to be a hard thing to do against somebody like John Jones, that he can put John to sleep. And I'm not saying that because John's the GOAT. John is the GOAT. There's two things. One, he's getting older. Two, he's never fought somebody with this punching power. Okay, because Alex has the touch of death. It doesn't matter. He can touch you somewhere that's not a lethal position or an area, and you're going to go to sleep. And we saw that from Jamal Hill. Dad, you make a great point. That was not the strategy to use against Alex Pineda. I agree 100%. If you're going to fight Alex, you got to wrestle. Period. The end. You have to wrestle. I mean, unless you're Israel Adesanya, you have to wrestle. Okay? And that's just what it is. Jan Blachowicz made it a fight. But he wrestled. So, you know, it is what it is. The co-main event, Zhang Weili versus Yang... I didn't write this down, so I'm going off the top of my head. Zhao Nan? I probably pronounced her last name incorrectly, and for that I apologize. But guys, that might have been fight of the night if it wasn't for the co-main event, the BMF title. Great fight between Zhang Weili and Yan. Listen, I'm a huge Zhang Weili fan. My money was on her, and she won. No surprise there. Yan put up a great fight. I know she was out. She was unconscious at the end of the first round, but somehow she was still able to fight through it. So congratulations to her. She's earned my vote as the toughest female fighter out there, and I also look forward to seeing what they're both able to do moving forward. But congratulations, Zhang Weili, on defending your title in the first ever China versus China championship match inside the UFC. And for the last bit that I want to talk to you guys about, man, listen, if you guys did not see Justin Gaethje versus Max Holloway, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. This was fight of the year, probably. I don't know if we're going to be able to find anything that will even come close to what we saw between these two. For reference, and those of you who do not know, Justin Gaethje is the BMF. He was the BMF champion after knocking out Dustin Poirier with a head kick a few months back, and then moving forward, we got to see him versus Max Holloway, where you got to see basically the heaviest hands at 155 versus the man who's never been knocked down at 155. In general, he's never been knocked down at all. Albeit, there did appear to be a knockdown that took place. I don't know if they're calling that a slip or a knockdown. It looks like Max wasn't actually knocked down, like he was actually, like he slipped. He wasn't in too much damage or trouble from what I saw, but unfortunately for Justin, it didn't matter. Max owned the entire fight. Max was just outpointing. He broke Justin's nose at the end of the first round with a spinning back wheel kick, not spinning back wing, but a spinning back kick. At the end of the day, I think this is one of those things where you go back and you look at the fight and you just say that you're happy to be there for it. But if you did not see the ending, I'm sorry, there is a spoiler. Max Holloway has this habit of inside the final 10 seconds. For those of you who watch boxing or mixed martial arts, you guys know that they do the at the end of the round when there's 10 seconds or less in the round, just to give the fighters a note. Hey, listen, we're about to stop the fight for round check. Okay. Well, Max has this habit of when he's in a war or when he's fighting guys, he'll tell them, get in the center of the octagon and let's stand and trade. Forget all this wrestling and submissions and the mind games and the talking. Let's be men. Let's stand right here and let's bang. Okay? We don't care about none of that other stuff. And let me tell you, that is the definition of a BMF. Okay? You guys should know what BMF stands for at this point, okay? But that is the most BMF moment I've ever seen in my life. I've always been a huge fan of Max Holloway. I've been following him since he was 22 years old. Absolutely love the kid. And let me tell you, he is the BMF, without the shadow of a doubt. And for those of you who did not watch it, he pointed at the center of the octagon, and you know Justin, guys. If you know Justin, you know he wasn't going to walk away from that. He walked in, squared up, and unfortunately with 1 second left, Max shuts down Justin Gaethje with a lethal right overhand. It's body, left to the body, right to the body, left back to the body again, and overhand right. When you're checking that distance, it's a boxing technique. For those of you who have taken boxing, you know exactly what technique I'm talking about. But using that left hand to generate that power, that motion, to know where you're going to land your right hand by where that left hand lands. And that's exactly what Max did, showing that, again, he does have some of the very best boxing in all of the UFC. Getting the walk-off KO victory. Absolutely amazing stuff. Never seen anything like it ever in combat sports, ever in history. Greatest last 10 seconds in the history of any sports, in my humble opinion. If you haven't watched it, go on YouTube, punch in those highlights, go look at what happened, and you won't be let down. I promise, guys, you won't be let down. But thank you so much for having it locked here on Palm Tree Sports Radio with me, Corey Pools. I am your host, and as always, it is brought to you and powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I can't say thank you enough, but one thing that I will always continue to do: spend your time wisely. Spend it with the people who matter most. I mean, this world is not going to last too much longer, guys. And if it is, it's not going to get too much better. Now is the time to make your time count for those who matter to you. Okay? Do that. I spent a lot of time, my dad will tell you, we spent a lot of time together. We're very family oriented, and we love to be around each other. And that's not going to change anytime soon, guys. Again, spend time with the ones that you love, and don't be afraid to let them know that you love them. Check in on your loved ones. If you haven't made that phone call, consider it this week, guys. Okay? Time is just getting shorter by the day. I'll be 30 this year, guys. I never thought I'd even make it past 18, let alone 25 to 30. It's a blessing, and I couldn't have done it without those people who make my life special, including my dad and my mom. I love you guys to pieces, and I can't wait to talk to you guys again. For everybody who joined me here in the chat, guys, Larry, Taryn, Ricky, Jen, Marcus, all you guys, you know, I really appreciate you guys for joining me here. I can't wait to be back with you guys next week, same time, same place, Sunday night at 9 p.m., and I will get you all your information. For those of you who are on the East Coast, have a wonderful night. I know you guys are going to start winding down and getting ready to start the work week. For those of you on the West Coast, enjoy the rest of your evening. Enjoy the rest of the sports this evening in general, guys. Again, if you're going to check out AEW, hit me up on Twitter, Instagram. We'll be talking about it too, guys. And I can't wait to see you guys, talk to you guys next week about what's going on here in the world of sports down in Florida. Until next time, I've been Corey Pools, your host for Palm Tree Sports Radio, which is brought to you by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a wonderful week, guys. Peace.